Nikki's POV. Nick. Did you hear me? You have company. My mom shouted as I got back in my bedroom. I went downstairs to find Eva standing in the foyer. I was curious as to why Eva and Alpha Eric were here, and why they told Jordan's grandmother they came here for me. Obviously, a lie, but I wanted to know their plan. Mom, can you give us a minute? I asked my mom and she went to the kitchen. Sup? I asked Eva. You tell me. Eva said, and she looked down at my waist. I rolled me eyes at her. What do you want? I asked. Alpha Eric is not going to be too happy with you. I can smell her on you. Eva said. Who? I said obliviously. You know who. Can't keep it in your pants, can you? Well, I hope you had your fun with her, because she is going back to the compound with Eric for the weekend. Looks like she has had a change of heart, said Eva. What? I asked in disbelief. She told her grandparents that she would marry Eric. Her grandfather called him last night to tell him. Eric decided to come here and surprise her with a little romantic getaway. Eva smiled. There's no way Jordan would agree to that. I shook my head. Ask her. Her family had a come to Jesus talk with her yesterday and told her that she needed to grow up and get serious, and I guess she did. That is why she got her driver's license. She told Alpha Cross that she was going to give you a ride back home and speak to Eric when she got there. Eva babbled. Now this sounded strange. Yesterday did seem odd when she wanted to get her license all of the sudden. But the way Jordan was acting upstairs in my bedroom did not make me believe she was leaving for the weekend. She wouldn't agree to that. Then Alpha Eric opened the door and quickly shut it. Eric looked pissed off. He charged over to me and sucker punched me right where I stood. He caught me way off guard. I took a step back, shocked and confused as hell. Stop fucking around with her. Do you hear me? He yelled. Alpha, I rubbed my face. That is an order. I can smell you all over her, and I saw her sneak out of your window. She is not yours. He barked. He straightened up and composed himself. I did not know what to say. I was angry. What the hell was going on? Jordan is coming with me, but first, she has to go home and grab some things. He said to Eva. Great. So, everything is going according to plan. Eva said. Well, almost. She is going to take some convincing now, thanks to him. Eric was referring to me. You could always use him as leverage if needed. Eva said. We'll see what she has to say after this weekend. Hang out with Nick somewhere until she's done packing. I will let you know when to pick us up. I'm sure it won't be too long, said Eric as he went back outside. Let's go for a drive, Nick. Eva said to me. What is your plan with Jordan? I asked her. You heard the Alpha? They are going to spend the weekend together. Now, come on. Let's go. I can explain more in the car, she said. I rode around in her car, and we went to the C-store to grab a drink. I was still angry, and I started to worry about Jordan. Something seemed off with Eric and Eva. Oh, suck it up. It's not like you didn't already know the plan. You got yourself into this when you started fucking around with her. You knew Eric had plans for her. You're lucky that's all he did to you, Eva said when we got back in the car. Fuck him, I huffed. Nick, you will find another girl to fool around with. I'm sure I am going to drop you back at your house. Promise me you will stay here and not do anything stupid. Hopefully, I will see you next week. Fine, I said and got out of her car. Eva drove away and I stood outside my house, for a minute thinking about everything. I was still trying to wrap my head around Jordan agreeing to go away with Eric for the weekend. The thought of it made my blood boil with jealousy. I wanted her and no one else could have her. And if she doesn't feel the same way, then she can tell me herself. I was going back to Wild Wind to see her, that's all there is to it. Jordan's POV. I woke up feeling like I had to vomit. Before I could open my eyes and sit up, I turned my head and threw up. My head was pounding with a terrible migraine. I was on a small bed in an empty bedroom. I did not know where I was and I started to panic. I tried to recall what happened. I remember Eric driving and me being in the passenger seat. The rest was too foggy to remember right now. I saw a white door, and I got up and stumbled over to it. It was locked. There wasn't a lock or latch on my side of the door, so it was locked from the other side. I ran over to the window and looked out it. I was high up. I was on the 3rd floor at least. I could see other houses and woods, but they weren't anything familiar to me. I went back to the door. I knocked on it. No one answered. I banged my hand against it and still nothing. I was stuck in this bedroom with just a bed. I checked the bed to see if my phone was in the blanket and it wasn't. I was starting to freak out. Wolves did not like feeling trapped. Hello? I shouted at the door and knocking some more. I have to use the bathroom, please, I said, because I felt like I was going to puke again. I heard voices whispering. It sounded like male and female voices talking. I jiggled the door handle. Then I heard someone step close to the other side of the door, so I took a step back. Hello, Jordan, said this man as he stepped inside the door, and someone locked it behind him, because I heard it. Who are you? I asked. I am hurt you don't remember me. My name is Emmett. We met at your cookout last week, said Emmett. I need to leave now, I said, feeling nauseous. I'm afraid you have to stay here until Sunday at least. I need your help with something. I saw the look in his eyes. I remembered this man faintly from the cookout. He looked a lot like Eric and was close to the same age. Early 40s most likely. He was starting to creep me out. It was hard to focus on what he was saying because of my headache. I was starting to feel the urge to vomit again. Please, I need to go, I said. Jordan, there you are. You don't want to leave now. We need you here, said Eric, stepping inside the bedroom. What? I asked wearily. We need you here to solidify Fire Moon's new future. You and Emmett are going to lead Fire Moon, and then join your pack with Wild Wind, Eric said. Huh. I could barely focus and was trying to keep my vomit down. I wanted to introduce you to Emmett last year, but your grandparents wouldn't allow it. Then at the party we tried again for you to meet Emmett, but you seemed to have other plans that night. I came up to visit with you today, and when I noticed Nick was throwing a wrench into my plans, I had to take matters into my own hands. Eric spoke. I need to. I heaved, but Eric continued. I waited a long time to be Alpha of Wild Wind. Did you think I was going to give that up? No, but Emmett is my brother and we share the same Alpha blood, so he is the perfect candidate for you, and your grandfather agreed. You are going to marry Emmett, and then once you're the Luna, you will agree to merge Fire Moon with Wild Wind. Once that is done, then, if you're lucky, Emmett may decide to keep you around, Eric said. If you can be obedient and stop whoring around. Emmett spat. Well, your son did prove useful in helping us lure her here, anyway. What? I felt the vomit at the back of my mouth. I used Nick as leverage to get you to agree to come here, don't you remember? Maybe Eva gave you too much tranquilizer. Nicky is your son? I asked. Not mine. He is Emmett's son, said Eric. I gagged and the vomit spewed out on Eric. I did not feel sorry in the slightest. Eva tranquilized me. Now, I am marrying Emmett and Nicky is his son. I couldn't have heard any of this correctly. What the fuck? Shouted Eric. Eric turned to leave out the door. I heard him tell someone he was getting in the shower, and for someone to bring me a towel. I jumped at the door as it was closing. Emmett caught me and shoved me back. He had a scary expression on his face. Don't even think about it, whore, Emmett said, and then he slapped me across the face hard. I had never been hit that hard. I shocked me. I could feel my face swelling up as I started to cry. Emmett left the room, leaving me alone. My situation felt hopeless, and I didn't have the strength to try to get out of this place. I was mad at myself. Eric said he used Nicky to lure me here. Was that Nicky's plan this whole time? Was he working with Eric? Eric said Emmett was Nicky's dad. There is no way any of this is true. But somehow, I still ended up here. I crawled back on the bed and cried for a while. No one came in the room to check on me, or bring me a towel, like Eric said. It was getting dark outside. I started to think of how I could get out of here. I need help. I stared at the walls and out the window all night long, until it was morning. I wasn't able to sleep. Jordan! Jordan! Where are you? A voice called for me inside my head. The voice, it sounded like Nicky. Nicky was here. This was strange, and how was he doing this? I did not have experience using telepathy, especially out of my wolf form. I also thought only people with alpha blood could link to someone in human form, and someone outside of their own pack. Like how my grandfather could summon people. I was confused and not sure how to tell Nicky I was upstairs. I closed my eyes and focused on my wolf. I thought about how I communicate with her when I want to shift back and forth. Maybe that was the trick. Use my wolf, but don't shift completely into my wolf form. Upstairs. 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 I kept saying in my head. I heard the door open and Nicky quickly peeked his head in. Nicky! I whispered excitedly. He said and walked in and wrapped his arms around me. What are you doing? Can you take me home? I said. No, everyone is starting to wake up and they will see us. I came to make sure you were okay. Nicky said. Okay. I am locked in this room. We have to leave now. I said to him. Jordan, they will see us. We can't, he said, and I pulled away from him. What is the matter with you? Eric won't let me leave. He wants to take over Fire Moon by making me marry his brother. I am scared. We have to leave now. Nicky. I tried to run to the door that was sitting just ajar. What? Wait. He grabbed me. I looked at him bewildered as he was holding me back. The talks, the car rides, everything was starting to come back to me. I knew I needed to get out of here because I was quickly realizing my life depended on it. Now, Nicky, who I thought was here to save me, was keeping me here too. Jordan, Eric said you agreed to come here with him because you were interested in him. Nicky wasn't sure what words to use. No, Eric told me that he was going to hurt you. If I didn't come with him, he said, I would never see you again. I got in the car and Eva drugged me. I woke up locked in this room. Eric and Emmett came in and said, I had to marry Emmett, and he was going to merge our packs. Then Emmett called me a whore and slapped me. I said, he slapped you? Nikki's expression went dark. Yes, I said. Are you all right? He asked. I'm fine now. He is going to pay for that. Nikki growled. Nikki, I tried to say to him. I will get you out of here. But not now, we have to wait until the coast is clear. I'm so sorry, Jordan. I came back here to see what was going on, but I did not expect any of this. I'm sorry. Nikki apologized. Eric said he used you as leverage. Did you know what they were planning this whole time? I asked. I knew Eric wanted you, but I didn't know he would do any of this. I thought he wanted to marry you. So, you did know. I knew he went to the cookout to meet you, and that is it. Everyone knew that. That is why he was invited, said Nikki. You didn't know that Eric wanted Emmett to marry me so that he can get control of Fire Moon. You didn't know that Eric thinks Emmett is your father, I said loudly. Jordan, shh. Someone will hear you, he said. Tell me, Nikki. Yes, Emmett is my biological father, okay? And no, I did not know he wants to marry you. You can understand why they wouldn't tell me that. He's your real dad. I gasped. My biological dad, yeah, I found out last year. Listen, we can talk about this later, but right now I need to find a place to hide out, Nikki said. Trigger warning. The rest of this chapter contains scenes that may be sensitive to some readers. Well, Jordan, after some things have come to light, Emmett has decided he would rather not take you as his mate. So, guess what that means for you? Eric said, standing in the bedroom. I get to go home. I asked. No, you get to ask your grandfather to hand over Fire Moon to me in exchange for your life, he said in an evil voice. I stared at him. Eric was planning to do to me exactly what his father did to Bash's wife. I was scared. It's not the way I would like to go about it either, but I guess this way I will get quicker results anyway, said Eric. I will grab a wet towel to wipe her dirty face. Emmett, take her downstairs, said Eva. No hard feelings. You would have probably been a good fuck, too, said Emmett as he grabbed me. I tried to struggle free, but another man grabbed my legs. I was weak from lack of sleep, food, and water. They took me down a couple flights of stairs into a room on the main level. It was made of windows. They strapped me to a chair that was the middle of the room. Eva came over to wipe my face. It will be okay. Just look into the camera and tell your grandfather you are fine. Ask him to submit to Eric and give him Fire Moon. It will all be over then, said Eva. Okay, are we ready? Said Eric, standing a few feet away. Hold his phone up. Yes, said Eva. Jordan, say hello, Eric ordered. I was silent. Everything was a whirlwind. Eric, Eva, and Emmett, the crazy siblings, seemed reckless. I had been abducted, told I was going to marry some man twice my age, just for him to pass me off to his brother, who was still just as old. And now he didn't even want me. Eric decided I had more use as a hostage. A bargaining chip in a game he thought he could win quicker than his last plan. Jordan, talk, he shouted. I didn't say anything. I was trying to hold back my tears. I wanted to stay strong. If I showed weakness, then Eric would think his plan was working. I had to hold myself together. Eva threw a bucket of cold water on me. She was sure to stand back, so the camera did get a picture of her. It was freezing cold water. I didn't make a sound. If this cold water was supposed to make me break, they would have to try a lot harder. Now, Jordan, shouted Eric. I still sat there not making a sound. Eric got mad and put his phone down. He came over to the chair and slapped me hard across the face, just like Emmett did the night before. It was jarring. It almost knocked me over with the chair. I said, "Speak into the camera and tell your grandfather what I want." Eric went back to filming. "Jordan, tell your grandfather why you're here." Eric said. I remained quiet. No way I was going to do anything this asshole said. "Fuck him." "Emmett, do you mind?" said Eric, nodding over to me. Emmett came over to me. He wrapped his hands around my throat and began to choke me. I was tied down tight, and I couldn't get free. I gasped for air as he continued to choke me. I knew he was going to stop because they needed me alive. Emmett let go of my neck, and I took a breath. "Now, you're going to talk into the camera, like a good little slut," said Emmett. "Fuck you." I spit in his face. Emmett returned with 4 blows to my stomach. Eric probably did not want them to beat my face up too much more, since I was going to be on camera. Had to give my grandfather a little good faith. Surely, they knew my grandfather was going to come for them like he did when his pack tried to do this last time. I could take it. Emmett punched me one more time in the stomach. It hurt so bad and it knocked the wind out of me. I hoped I would heal quickly. "Now, Jordan, tell Alphacross what I want," said Eric, still rolling on his phone. "No." I wheezed. "Oh, for fuck's sake, Eva, take my phone." Eric walked over to me. "Jordan, don't make me hurt you. I will do it if I have to. Unlike my father, I will get what I want now. Are you going to cooperate?" asked Eric. I shook my head no. Eric stood back up and looked around at the others in the room. Emmett, Eva, the man who helped carry me, and a couple more people were standing back watching. They all let out a chuckle when I shook my head. "Okay, you guys give it a go," Eric said to them. Eric, Eva, and Emmett left the room while these 3 men started to take their clothes off. I was scared as to why they were undressing. I was praying that they weren't about to all 3 rape me, or something. Please no. Then one of the naked men shifted into a wolf. The other 2 followed. They growled and crept over to me and the chair. They began to snarl and show their teeth. One lunged at me and nipped me in the leg. I looked down and saw it drew blood. In the same instant another bit into my thigh and shook his head. That hurt the worst. His teeth dug into my thigh muscle and I screamed. It started bleeding badly. These wolves kept going, biting and tearing into my lower half, but making sure to avoid my face. My legs looked horrible, and I could only sit there and look down at the torn flesh. They were barbaric. I tried to contain my sobs as my blood ran out of my body. I was feeling cold along with the pain. I couldn't help but wonder how things had gone so bad so quickly. "Let's see if you're ready to talk now, Jordan," said Emmett, entering the room. I was weeping quietly. The wolves left the room and it was just me and Emmett. He came over to me. He unstrapped me from the chair and carried me back upstairs. He said he was going to help me. He laid me on the bed in the same room as earlier. Then, he got in the bed too. He laid right behind me, trying to cradle my back against him. I felt his penis get hard against my back. I struggled to get away from him. "No, stay still. I'm going to make you feel better," Emmett whispered in my ear. "Get off of me," I shouted. "Will you talk to your grandfather for us?" Emmett bargained. "No," I screamed. Emmett grabbed my neck, and I tried to hit and kick him, but he was behind me in the bed. My legs hurt so bad. They were a bloody mess. Emmett took his other hand and caressed my breast over my shirt at first, and then he slipped his hand in under my shirt and bra. I kept trying to fight him off. Emmett, I didn't think you wanted her anymore, said Eva, barging in the room. I want to at least show my son who is boss. Emmett said. I thought I was the boss, said Eric, joining the room. Do you want me to hold her for you? Eva said to Emmett. Emmett must have nodded or something because Eva came over and grabbed my wrists. Emmett turned me on my back and then climbed on top of me. I was so angry and I tried to fight him off. He moved up to where he was sitting on my chest. I could barely breathe with the weight of his body on my lungs. I thought you were going to show Nick who is boss, said Eric. I am, but first she is going to suck it, said Emmett. What if she bites you? Asked Eva, still holding my wrists at the top of my head. If she does, then I will fuck her twice as rough. You hear me? Emmett slapped my face. I was about to be raped. This was all my fault. I put myself here and now these were the consequences. Emmett started to undo his pants. My legs were still bleeding and my body felt cold. It took everything I had to suck in shallow breaths of air. Maybe I would die before he was finished. I felt tears roll down the sides of my face. Last chance. Talk to your grandfather, Eric said. Okay, I said. Emmett, get off of her, Eric ordered. Come on. Fuck you, Emmett said, annoyed at Eric. Take her downstairs now. Emmett and Eva carried me downstairs again and tied me back to the chair. I did not put up a fight. I was becoming very weak. I only agreed to talk because I did not want him to rape me. That is not what I wanted as my last memories before I died. No doubt I was going to die. Either way, Eric would not let me leave here alive. If Nicky tried to save me, they would kill him too. If my grandfather surrendered, then Eric would have no reason to keep me around in his new pack. My situation was becoming hopeless. Okay, Jordan, talk to your grandfather, said Eric, holding up his phone. I'm sorry, I whispered. What? We can't hear you, speak louder, shouted Eric. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have trusted them. It's my fault. Don't try to save me. I don't want anyone else to die, I said into the camera, until I felt a stabbing pain in my shoulder. I let out a blood-curdling scream. There was an arrow sticking out of my shoulder. Eva was holding a crossbow. I did not see it before when she was standing there. The pain shook my body. I couldn't pull it out of my shoulder because my hands were tied. Jordan, tell your grandfather what I want, shouted Eric, still holding his camera. My grandparents didn't need to see this. This would break them. I tried to stop crying to talk. I just kept telling myself to be strong. Don't surrender to them, is all I could manage to say. Fuck, Eric growled. He came over and ripped the crossbow arrow out of my arm. I screeched at the pain. I felt blood run down my arm. He was still filming. He turned the camera view around to face him. Submit to me, Cross, and surrender, Fire Moon, and you can have your granddaughter back. You have until morning, Eric said into the camera. He handed his phone to Eva and told her to send it. My body was going cold and I was starting to lose consciousness. Werewolves do heal faster, but it still took a while. What takes a human 2 weeks to heal, a wolf can heal in 2 or 3 days. It depends on the wolf and the wounds. I was not healing yet. It had a lot to do with the stress and lack of sleep. I want extra guards on patrol. Take her upstairs. We will wait to see what happens in the morning, said Eric. She may not make it until then. Someone said. Who cares? Said Eric, and I passed out. Nikki's POV. I decided to go to Wild Wind and check on Jordan. Something seemed odd and my mind wouldn't rest. I left really early in the morning before my family would notice I borrowed the car. I drove most of the way there and then parked the car about 5 miles away. I shifted and planned to run the rest of the way in wolf form. I was running through the woods when I caught wind a horrible odor. It was enough to make me slow down for a second. I trotted along, being extra aware of my surroundings. I heard a growl from behind me. I knew better than to turn around and look. I kept facing forward. Then a large black wolf walked in front of me. He was what was reeked. He looked like someone dumped hot grease on him, and smelled like it too. Who are you and what are you doing out here? I heard the wolf say to me telepathically. I'm headed back to Wild Wind. What are you doing out here? I asked back. Who are you? He asked, and another wolf came up from behind to stand next to the other. Who the fuck are you guys? I asked. We asked you first. The larger one snapped. Nick Oat. I said. Are you related to Delta Oat from Fire Moon? The other one asked. He's my uncle. I said. What business do you have with Wild Wind? The big one asked. I am checking on a friend. What's it to you? We are looking for someone who may also be at Wild Wind, said the large wolf again. Who? I asked. Jordan Cross. The other one said. I shifted back to my human self. The large wolf did not shift, but the other one did. I wondered why they were looking for Jordan. I'm River and this is my cousin, Alpha Bashir Jones. He said. Jordan came here last night with Alpha Eric. I was coming to check on her. I told them. Fucking Eric is at it again. We need to let Josiah know immediately. The larger wolf linked to River, but I was standing close enough, so I caught it. At what again? He said he wants to marry her. I said, and they both looked at me. Did you say you were the Delta's nephew? River stepped closer to me. Yeah. I nodded. You're not a fucking Delta. Who the fuck are you? River got in my face. My dad is the Delta's younger brother. I told him. Don't lie to me. If you're a Delta, then how could you hear him talking to me just now? He shouted. I was adopted. My real dad is related to an Alpha. I said. The look on River's face told me. He still didn't believe me. He stepped back and continued to look at me. I didn't like him getting in my face, but I kept my cool. I wanted to know why they were looking for Jordan. I've been trying to contact Jordan, and when she wouldn't answer I called Alpha Cross. He said, she went away for the weekend with Alpha Eric Darrow. Said River. She did. I said. The other wolf shifted into a man. He took a step forward and began speaking. I could tell he was upset. She agreed to come here and Josiah let her. What the hell was he thinking? He rambled. Eric came to pick her up from her house. She acted like she didn't know he was coming to get her, but she still went. Eva, Eric's sister, told me stay away from here this weekend for my own safety. When she told me that, I knew something wasn't adding up. I told them. You know Eva? River questioned. I have lived with them for the last year. I left Fire Moon and joined Wild Wind when I found out who my real father was. I went back to Fire Moon to visit, and then everything went to hell. You have no idea what hell is like. said Bashir, and he lunged at me and put me in a chokehold. Your real dad? Are we talking about Eric or Emmett? Huh. They sent you to Fire Moon to be their spy and scope out Jordan. Now you're feeling remorse, or do you just feel left out, not getting to torture her too? Bash said angrily. No, I just wanted to make sure she was okay. I choked. We will take him back to truck and call Alpha Cross, said Bash to River. No. I can go check on her, they will let me in. I said. Can you get her out? River asked. If I find out where she is, then I can. I told him. They looked at each other for a few minutes. Okay, you go find her and see what's going on. If it is too risky, do not attempt to save her yet. Come back here and meet us. Okay. Bash said. Okay. I said, and I shifted as I took off running. Trigger warning. The rest of this chapter contains scenes that may be sensitive to some readers. I grabbed some clothes from the laundry room, and when I was in there I tried to mind link up with Jordan. Jordan! Jordan! Where are you? I said. I knew she wasn't familiar with mind linking in human form, still, but I had to try. Upstairs. I heard her. When I got near her, I could smell her. I could feel my heart telling me I was getting closer and closer. I tried to open the door, and it was locked. It had 2 deadbolts on this side of the door. I flipped them and went inside the room. Jordan was inside. Her face was red and she looked tired, but other than that she was fine. She told me that they were keeping her here on lockdown. She said Eric was evil and was going to use her to take over Fire Moon. She said Emmett slapped her. All of this made my blood boil. I wanted to rip both of them to shreds. I wanted to get Jordan out of here. Bash and River were right. Jordan was in danger. I heard someone come up the stairs. It was not safe to make an escape yet. If I got caught alone, I could talk my way out of it. If anyone saw me with her, then we would be in trouble. It was too risky right now. It killed me to leave her, but I had to wait. I left her there in that room. I told her I would be back, and I meant it. I slipped into a bathroom, and then made my way out of the pack house unnoticed. Once I got far enough away, I shifted back into my wolf, but I grabbed my clothes in my mouth. I ran until I met up with River and Bash. I shifted back into my human form. She's okay, but they have her locked up on the 3rd story. I told them. We need to get her, said River. Tonight will be our best chance when some of them will be sleeping. I will contact Alpha Cross and let him know what's going on. He may have some input. Bash said. Are you sure you want to tell him right now? What if he tells Eric and we lose our element of surprise? I told them. He's right, it's just us, said River, looking from Bash to me. We waited by their truck for nightfall. I prayed that everything would be okay until then. River, Bash, and I went over our plan a dozen times. They would wait in the tree line by the pack house. I would go in and get Jordan since I was familiar with the pack house. Then I would leave with her out the side door. Bash and River would make sure to get her and flee. I told them not to worry about me, just get Jordan to safety at all costs. They both willingly agreed. I didn't have time to wonder how Jordan befriended 2 hellhounds. They weren't going to watch out for me tonight, though. It was just about Jordan. If I fell behind, then I was on my own. It was getting dark and closer to the time for us to leave. Bash's phone rang. What? Is she okay? Send it to me. Bye. He hung up and then his phone beeped with a message. That was Zach. He said that Eric sent a video of Jordan being hurt to Alpha Cross. We need to hurry, Bash said. Bash opened his phone and played the video. I looked over to see it. I wished I hadn't. I saw Jordan sitting on a chair. We can't hear you, speak louder, shouted Eric. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have trusted them. It's my fault. Don't try to save me. I don't want anyone else to die. Her voice cut off as I saw something hit her shoulder. They shot her with something. River shook his head and walked away. I looked back at the video. It was an arrow in her shoulder. She screamed. Don't surrender to them, Jordan uttered. Fuck. Eric growled. Eric walked over to her and ripped the arrow from her arm. Jordan screamed again. My blood was boiling. Submit to me, Cross, and surrender, Fire Moon, and you can have your granddaughter back. You have until morning, Eric said into the camera. That was the end of the video. He's dead, I said. Yes, he will be, but first you need to focus on getting Jordan out of there. Do not try to take a chance with Eric. Get Jordan out, said Bash, looking at me. Jordan's POV. Jordan. Oh my God. Jordan. I heard someone saying my name. It seemed like a dream. I was picturing Nikki calling my name. We were in the woods together like my last dream. He was being playful and chasing me throughout the forest. He kept calling my name in the dream, so I decided to turn around and ask him if he was all right. He was standing there repeating my name, almost shouting it. Jordan. Wake up, please. Jordan. I heard Nikki say, I am awake. I am standing right here in the woods with you, silly. I said to him in my dream. Jordan, you're asleep. You're dreaming. I came to get you out of here, but I need you to wake up. Open your eyes, Nikki said in the dream. I opened my eyes and I realized I was dreaming. Nikki and I were not in the woods. I tried to get up, but my body wouldn't move. Nikki. I looked at him. Oh, Jordan. We need to get you out of here, he said. Nikki, I can't move. I think my body is numb, I said frantically. Nikki pulled the blankets off me, and there was blood everywhere. I saw the look on his face change. His face was distorted in anger and sadness. Quickly, he looked around. Someone is coming. We have to hurry. Bash and River are waiting for us, Nikki said in a panic. Bash and River are here, I asked. I ran into them on my way to find you. Hold on to me. Nikki picked me up. I can't move this arm, I said, wincing, trying to hold back tears. He cradled me in his arms. He had one arm under my back and one under my legs. I know he was trying to be gentle, but the pain was agonizing. Nikki turned to go out the door, and we were both knocked to the floor by Eric. My body writhed with pain, but I needed to get away from him. I used my one good arm to scoot back away. Nikki got right back up on his feet. I am disappointed in you, Nick. After all I have done for you, as my nephew, who knows, you could have led the pack one day, but instead I find you here stealing from me, said Eric. Jordan, are you all right? Nikki asked me. I nodded. I was all right, as in I didn't think I had any new injuries. I looked around to assess our predicament. Eric was not going to let us out that door alive. Nikki would have to kill him. He would have to do it alone too, because I wasn't going to be any help. I looked over at the window. I don't want to hurt you, Nick. Let's you and me go downstairs and talk. Eric tried to speak calmly. I think we are past that, don't you? Said Nikki. While they were talking in their standoff, I pulled myself up with everything I could muster and was standing behind Nicky. I wrapped my arm around his waist. I will get Fire Moon. You don't want to stand in my way. It's you two against the whole pack here. What do you think your odds are of you getting out alive? Eric said. I leaned up and pressed my head against Nicky's back. I concentrated hard trying to use the mind link. Shift and go out the window, now. I will hang on. Hurry, Nicky. It's the only way, I said to him. I felt his back tense up. He heard me. I grabbed tightly onto him and tried my best to cling on with my other hand. This was going to hurt. We may not even make it, but we had to try. It was better than dying at the hands of Eric. Eric started to speak again, but I couldn't tell what he said. Nicky dove to the left, and I clung to him as best I could. He jumped up and shifted just as he got to the window. I grabbed a fistful of his fur and leaned down on top of his wolf's back. He broke through the glass, and we were launched out of the window. I felt the glass cut into my head and face as we went through the window frame. I just kept telling myself to hold on tight. I felt a whoosh of air, and then we were falling. This wasn't a leap. 3 stories was a long way down, even for a wolf. We were going to land hard, and it was going to hurt. I don't remember hitting the ground. I woke up the first time to Bash dragging me into the woods. I faded in and out after that. I remember being carried by someone. I remember the smell of burning fur. I faintly remember hearing Bash's voice. It was a blur. I am taking her back to our pack. You take him home to Fire Moon. Eric wants her, but he may also want him. We should separate. We'll talk soon, I heard Bash say. I was in a car being driven somewhere at this point. It was still dark outside. Bash was driving and he saw my eyes open. Hey Jordan. You're safe, you just hang with me, Bash said. Utter bullshit, and you know it. He should have never trusted Eric, or anyone from Wild Wind in the first place. I don't care, she is not going back until Eric is taken care of. River yelled from the kitchen. I woke up to River yelling into his phone. I was in his house again, but this time, I was on his couch. My whole body ached. I tried to sit up, and I felt a shooting pain in my shoulder. That is when I remembered that Eva shot me with her crossbow. I can't believe I was shot. I was lucky to be alive. River saw me moving on the couch and ended his phone call. Jordan, how are you feeling? Our pack doctor will be over any minute. I asked him to come over here, so we can try to keep a low profile. How's your shoulder? Asked River. Where's Nicky? I asked. I took him back to Fire Moon, and Bash brought you here to sleep better than his pack house. Don't want the whole pack knowing your whereabouts, he said. Is he okay? The fall knocked him out, but I'm sure he will be fine. You, on the other hand, may need a few days to heal, said River. He isn't safe. I need to go home, now. Eric would be daft to try anything right now. If anyone from their pack is caught on Fire Moon territory, they will be killed on sight. I still need to get home. I need to see my family, I said. We are plotting our revenge with your grandfather. He was so completely brainwashed by Eric's lies that he let you walk right into danger. Your grandfather feels terrible. He was so concerned with the endangered future of his pack that he didn't notice the immediate threat right in front of him. Jordan, we are planning to take down Eric and his siblings, said River. When? I asked. This will take some time to plan. We will have to wait for the ideal moment to strike. It could be in a few weeks, or in a few months or longer. I am not sure it's a good idea for you to go back to Fire Moon right now. though," suggested River. "I'm going back and we're leaving today," I stated. "The doctor is on his way here. Let's get you checked out, and then we can talk about leaving," he said. "There's no talking about it, I am leaving," I said. River walked over to the door to let the doctor inside. He was a middle-aged man dressed in casual clothes. He carried a leather bag with him. River spoke with him for a minute before leading the doctor over to the couch. "Jordan, this is Dr. Fulton," River introduced him. "Hello, Jordan. I am going to take a look at you, if that is okay," said Dr. Fulton. "That's fine," I said. After Dr. Fulton examined my bruises, bites on my legs, and my shoulder wound, he decided it would be best to give me a few pills for my pain and antibiotics. "That is a deep wound, but it has started healing well. I would predict it to be closed up and like new in 2 days. I am going to give you some pain relievers. These will alleviate some pain and help you get some sleep, which will allow your body time to heal. Take them with water and get some rest," said Dr. Fulton. "Thank you," I said. "Thanks, Doc. I will show you out," said River, leading Dr. Fulton out of the room. River came back over and sat next to the couch after he showed Dr. Fulton out. I wanted to demand he take me home, now that I had been checked out, but in truth my shoulder was very painful. "River," I started to talk. "Jordan, I know you want to go home, but you're safe here. Take today and sleep, and we can get you home tomorrow," he said. "Okay." I relented. I took out 2 pills, like the bottle said, and popped them in my mouth. I grabbed the bottle of water next to me and took a swig. I wiggled down into the couch and waited for the pain in my shoulder to subside so I could fall asleep. I awoke laying on my side with the sun shining on my face. I looked around and realized I was not on the couch. I was in a bed. I lifted my head and began to get up, and I felt a sharp pain in my shoulder. "Shit," I said and looked over at the small patch of blood that soaked through the bandage. My shoulder wasn't the only thing that was keeping me from getting up. River's arm was around my waist. I looked behind me, and he was asleep behind me on the bed, spooning me. He must have brought me up to bed earlier and decided to take a nap too. I wasn't that concerned. Well, I wasn't until I realized I did not have any pants or underwear on. I felt my bare ass on the sheets. I was only wearing a large shirt. It must have been one of River's shirts. "River, wake up," I said as I sat up. He mumbled and continued sleeping. "River." I nudged him. "What?" he asked. "Where are my clothes?" I questioned. "Your what?" He was starting to wake up. "Wake up. What happened last night?" I asked. "Give me a sec," River said, and he got up and walked over to the open door to the bathroom. He was butt naked. I stared at his ass as he strolled over to the bathroom and closed the door. I heard him pee and wash his hands. When he opened the door, I turned my head and looked down at the bed covers. River walked back over to the bed and got in. "Ahem." I made the sound, hoping River would talk now. "Don't get an attitude with me. I barely got any sleep last night because of you," River said. "What?" "I've been asleep for a whole day." I was worried. "I wouldn't say you were sleeping. You're not taking any more of those fucking pills," he said. "Huh." I looked at him. "Yeah, I had to fight you off of me the whole night. You were acting like a wild banshee, and you kept tearing open your shoulder, Because you wouldn't settle down. River said. What? I didn't believe him, but my shoulder was still killing me, so there was that. Jordan, every time I would sit down you would hop away. You would start saying crazy things and then you took all of your clothes off. I tucked you in bed, but then you got up and came to my room. I put a t-shirt on you and held you down until you finally went to sleep. Crazy ass. As River spoke, bits and pieces started to come back to me. Oh, fuck me. I was mortified. I was so embarrassed that all I could do was laugh. You're laughing, God. You are crazy. River laughed too. You're naked too, so what happened there? I asked, still laughing. I sleep naked. He said. Well, maybe I do too, and that is why I was taking my clothes off. I stated. No, I'm pretty sure those pills you took had you going a little out of your mind. He winked. Well then, I am glad I was with you, and that you took care of me. Thank you. I said. Anytime, said River with a smile. River got out of bed again and went in the bathroom to turn on his shower. He came back out and was still naked when he began to talk to me. I made sure to focus on his face when he talked. I have to go talk to Bash. You can take a shower in here. If you'd like, there is food in the kitchen. Please stay here. I will be back in a little bit. He said. Okay. I said. No more of those pills, that's for sure. Last night, Nicky told me he was going to go home and kissed me goodbye. I begged him to stay and he reluctantly agreed. I knew this morning he had to go home. This was going to be awkward, trying to get him out of here, when my grandparents were already downstairs. I got some clothes on and he got dressed. I pulled him in for a kiss before we left my room and went downstairs. When we hit the stairs, I could see my grandfather waiting at the bottom. Good morning, Geordie, he said to me with a smile. Morning, I said cheerfully. Nick, my grandfather said with a stern expression on his face. Alpha Cross, Nicky said. See you later, Jordan, Nicky said to me, and then he left out the front door. I went into the kitchen and sat down at the table with some water. My grandfather and grandmother joined me at the table. They were silent for a few minutes before my grandmother spoke. Jordan, do you want something to eat? She asked. No thanks, maybe later. I said. Jordan, I know you don't want to talk about what happened, but I would like to, said my grandfather. It's fine, I said. No, it's not fine. You were taken as a hostage due to my stupidity and that sleazy Eric Darrow. You could have been killed. I am truly sorry I let that happen. How is your shoulder? Do you need to have it looked at? We will take you to the hospital to have you checked out. It's fine, I am fine, I said. Jordan, sweetie, you can't bottle up your feelings, my grandmother said. I'm not, I just want to move on. I am going to get ready for training. I got up from the table. I think you should sit out of training until you get your shoulder checked, my grandfather suggested. My shoulder is fine. All healed. I am going to training, I said. No, we are taking you to the hospital first, then we will see when you can return to training, he stated. I knew there was no point in arguing with my grandfather after he gave an order. I could tell by the tone of his voice. It was a command coming from the Alpha. I stood at the table looking at him. I wasn't trying to pick a fight. I was starting to feel happy, and he wanted to drag up all of this shit. Okay, I am ready whenever you are, I said. We got to the hospital and my grandparents insisted on being in the exam room with me. My shoulder was basically pain-free, so I knew it was pointless to have it checked out again by a doctor. The doctor came in and I removed my shirt. I had a sports bra on. As soon as I took off my shirt, my grandmother gasped. "Oh, Jordan!" she exclaimed. "Gran, it's fine," I said as I looked down at my shoulder. "Let's have a look," said the doctor as he began to look at it. My shoulder felt fine, but it had a pretty good scar. Werewolves healed super fast, but we still could have scars if the wounds were bad enough. This scar looked awful, but I think the fact it reminded my grandparents of what happened is what really caused their reaction. After the doctor finished the examination of my shoulder, he cleared me to go back to physical training, but suggested I take it easy on that arm for a week. I slipped my shirt back on. My grandfather and the doctor left the room, and I sat there with my grandmother for a few minutes, waiting for someone to come in and tell us we could leave. "Jordan, this is Dr. Turk. She is a psychiatrist. She wants to ask you a few questions and then you can leave," said my grandfather, and Dr. Kirk walked into the room. "Hi, Jordan. I know you have been through quite the ordeal. I want to talk to you for a few minutes. Is that okay? Would you prefer to talk alone, or can your grandparents stay?" she asked. "They can stay," I said to her. "Okay, Jordan, I want you to tell me about what happened when you were at Wild Wind. More specifically, I want you to tell me if anyone may have touched you or did anything inappropriately to you, if you feel comfortable talking about that," she went on. "No one touched me. I am fine," I said. "Eric Darrow didn't touch you?" she asked. "No," I said. "He didn't touch you or ask you to touch him at all?" she asked. "He ripped a fucking arrow out of my arm after his sister shot me with a crossbow, but no, he didn't rape me," I said bluntly. "Jordan, it is okay to feel angry. We just want to make sure you are all right," said Dr. Turk. "I am fine. I don't know what else to say. I am trying to put these things behind me," I said, starting to get agitated. After a pause, she looked around at my grandparents and then back to me. "Well, if you need to talk, here is my card." She handed it out to me. "Thank you," my grandmother said, and grabbed the card, because I was not going to take it. My grandparents and I left the hospital and were driving home. I wanted to go to training because I wanted to see Nicky. I couldn't stop thinking about him. "Can you drop me off at the training complex?" I asked my grandfather, who was driving. "Jordy, take today off. You can go tomorrow," he said. "Okay," I said, not wanting to push him. "Mitchell and Lee are going to come over for a working dinner tonight. I forgot to tell you," my grandfather said to my grandmother. "Oh, well, that should be fine," she said. "Is it okay if Nicky comes to dinner?" I asked. My gramps took a breath. "I suppose, but he is not allowed to spend the night again. I will not be disrespected by him," my grandfather stated. "He wasn't disrespecting you," I started. "Jordan," my grandmother warned. "He saved my life." "How is that disrespectful? Did you even say thank you?" I was mad. "Alpha Jones and River also saved your life, but they are not sneaking around with you under my own roof. I know you have been through a lot, but do not lose sight of your priorities. You need to find an alpha mate, and Nick needs to be put in his place. You need to end this before it goes any farther," he snapped. Wow. He was so cold. This was not my grandfather. It was Alpha Cross, and he was all business. He was not going to coddle me. After all, I did say I was fine. But I am shocked that he doesn't know about Nikki. In all of this mess, no one told him that Emmett Darrow is Nikki's real father. If he knew Nikki had alpha blood, then why would he be telling me to break it off with him? Or does my grandfather know and he doesn't want me to be with someone with ties to Wild Wind and Eric Darrow? I didn't give a fuck either way. He was my mate. I loved Nikki. I love him, I said, and I stared at my grandfather in the rearview mirror. He said nothing. He only stared back at me with an angry expression. I need to be put in my place. Nikki looked at me. That's what he said. I was telling Nikki about the car ride from earlier. Are you going to put me in my place? He teased and squeezed my hips tighter. Oh, I will, I said back to him, flirting. Nikki came by the pack house after training. I texted him, saying I would meet him outside, hoping to avoid my grandfather seeing him. He had me picked up and my back pinned against the side of the house, holding me. I wrapped my legs around his back. He was sweaty and looking fine. It was sexy and it made it hard to concentrate. I don't think he knows about Emmett being your biological father, I said. Why would he? Nikki said. I thought maybe someone would have said something when everything went down. I don't know. My mom and dad are the only people here that know. And you? He leaned into me. We should tell my grandfather, I said. I don't know. Nikki looked away. Last night Nikki said he loved me. He said it back. In my mind, it was obvious that we needed to tell my grandfather who Nikki's real father was. My grandfather would be thrilled to find out that the man I loved was from an alpha bloodline. Nikki seemed hesitant. What's the matter? I asked him. I need to talk to my mom and dad before we tell anyone. Nikki said. Oh duh, I'm sorry, I didn't even think about that. I said to him. Just give me a couple of days. He said. Okay, until then we have to fly under the radar. I leaned up and kissed him. We started making out. If I could do this 24/7, I would. I loved feeling him holding on to me. I felt content with him. I had an undying urge to always be close to him, and I know he felt it too. Why couldn't we both admit the fact that we were mates to each other? I got a surprise for you tonight, he said, pulling away from my lips. Oh yeah, I said. Yeah, I will come by tonight and show you, he said. Okay, but my Gramps is having a meeting tonight, so text me when you get here, I said, thinking this sneaking around was already becoming ridiculous. Okay, I better run then. See you later, he said with another kiss, and he put me down. I watched him jog off, and then I went back in the house, wondering what the surprise could be. My mind racked through the many ideas. Some were logical and some were completely insane. Perhaps he got me a gift, or made me something. My head spun with more ideas, from him taking me on a walk to him proposing, or the possibility of there not being a surprise at all and he was just joking around with me. Anxiety set in. And honestly, for no reason, because I knew that no matter what it was, I would be with Nikki tonight, and that was all I wanted. I sat back in the seat to catch a breath when I heard what sounded like wheels turning in the gravel. I saw a flash of headlights. Without getting out, Nikki jumped around to the driver's seat and started the car and drove off. Who is that? I asked, freaked. I don't know, get dressed, he said. Are they following us? I asked, pulling my shirt over my head. Doesn't look like it, he said. I threw Nicky his clothes and moved to the front seat. I held the wheel while he slipped his clothes on. He drove on, and then I realized that I was still quite turned on. I wanted to go park somewhere else. Out of habit, I pulled my phone out and checked it. I had 7 missed calls from my grandparents. I didn't hear it because I had it silenced. Shit, my grandparents have been trying to call me, I said as I started to call them back. My grandmother answered. Jordan? Where are you? Are you okay? She exclaimed. I'm fine. What's wrong? I asked her. Where are you? She asked again, and she seemed very worried. I'm out with Nicky. We just went to the lake, I said, deciding not to keep up with my original lie. Come home right now, okay? She said. Okay, I am on my way, I said, and hung up. We have to go home. They are freaking out, I told Nicky. Okay, he said. There were a bunch of vehicles in the driveway, which made sense because my grandfather was having a meeting tonight. I told Nicky to park there because I already told my gran that I was with him, so no sense in hiding it. I walked in, and a bunch of our PAX guards were standing in the living room. My grandparents came forward. My grandmother hugged me. What is going on? I asked, hugging my grandmother and looking up at my grandfather. There was a group of men from Wild Wind. They tried to drive past the guard gate. We weren't sure if they were doing it as a diversion, while some more snuck in. The whole pack is on lockdown until we check it out, my grandfather stated. We were worried when you didn't answer your phone, Jordan. I called Luke and he said he hadn't seen you. My grandmother was trying not to cry. Fucking Luke. Ratting me out. My grandfather had now turned to staring at Nicky in anger. I was just about to suggest Nicky leave and walk him back to the door to avoid conflict, but my grandfather spoke. Nick, come with me, he ordered. Gramps, I tried to speak. Jordan, stay here, he barked. Nicky followed my grandfather outside. I was mad. I wasn't going to get to say goodbye to Nicky tonight. My grandfather had no reason to be mad. I was safe with Nicky. For fuck's sake, this night took a nosedive. Nicky's POV. I followed Alpha Cross out the front door. I just came in. I could tell he was mad. I wasn't too happy being called out in front of everyone and being taken outside to be reprimanded, but it's whatever. I would just go along with the Alpha and be respectful, biding my time until I figured out what I was going to do about my situation. Nick, today, Jordan told me that she loves you. I think she is clinging to you while dealing with this trauma from, well, you know, everything that happened to her. She is confused, and I will not let anyone take advantage of her while she is in this vulnerable state. I will also not tolerate anyone disrespecting me or this pack's future. Do you understand? He was heated. Sir, I would never do that, I said. So, you understand? He pushed. Yes, Alpha, I said. Jordan is going to stay with Alpha Jones and his pack for a couple of days as a precaution in light of this attack from Wild Wind. It would be wise of you to let her have some space and focus on what she needs to do for her pack. I do not want you distracting her. This is serious. I am serious, he barked. Yes, sir, I said. Thank you. Now, have a good rest of your night, he said, making it clear it was time for me to leave. Yes, sir. And I got in my car and drove off. Alpha Cross was sending Jordan to bash for her safety until they get to the bottom of this breach. Bullshit. He doesn't want us to be together because he thinks it will put Fire Moon in jeopardy. I needed to talk to my dad. Jordan was right. I need to hurry up and get this over with so we could be together. Or at least have a shot. Just because Emmett was my biological father and the brother of an alpha, didn't mean her grandfather was going to accept me. I was the flesh and blood of the people who kidnapped Jordan. Alpha Cross could kick me out of the pack, and then I would never see Jordan. I wasn't sure how this would go. I got home and my dad was sitting outside on the porch. My mom was not around, luckily. I parked the Chevelle and went over to sit beside my dad. Did she like the car? He asked with a grin. Yeah, I said, trying to keep a straight face. I was about to call you. The pack is on lockdown, said my dad. Yeah, I heard about it when I took Jordan back to her house. Alpha Cross said some guys from Wild Wind showed up at the guard shack. I told him, oh well, I bet they were glad Miss Jordan was with you then. Hey. He said. Not exactly. I said, and I dropped my head down. Why not? Nick, what's up? He asked. Her grandfather is sending her away. He said he wants her to be safe. He wants her to marry Bash. I said, struggling not to raise my voice. Bash? Does she want to marry Alpha Bashir? He asked. No, but her grandfather is desperate to line up on Alpha to take over for him, and each time something happens he gets more neurotic about it. I said, what are you going to do? I couldn't believe he asked me that. What can I do? I looked over at him. Well, if you love her, and if you think she is your mate, then you need to do something. Tell them who you really are. You know what I mean. Tell them that you have alpha blood and that you love her. Be honest with them. He advised. Jordan already knows. I said in frustration. Knows what? That you love her. He smiled. Yes, and she knows Emmett is my biological father. She wants to tell her grandfather. I told him. Well then, what are you waiting for, son? Emmett helped Eric kidnap Jordan. What if her grandfather banishes me from the pack, just for being related to them? I would never get to see her, and if I told him, then the whole pack would know the truth about you not being my real dad. I said, oh, well Nick, don't worry about me. I know I am your dad, and you can always count on that. As for Jordan, it seems like you will lose her if you don't say anything, so you are better off going to Alpha Cross tomorrow and telling him the truth. I will go with you first thing. Sound good? He said. Thanks, Dad. I said. My dad and I walked to the pack house the following morning. I was grateful to have him with me. I could do it on my own, but my dad would be there to back up my story in case Alpha Cross questioned it. I knocked on the door, and Marie answered the door. Good morning. She greeted us. Good morning, Marie. Is Alpha Cross available to see us? My dad said to her. No, you just missed him. He will be gone for a couple of hours. Would you like me to give him a message? She asked. No, thank you. We will touch base with him later. My dad said. Okay, goodbye. She said, and we walked back down the driveway. I had a little feeling of defeat. Now, I was left waiting for Alpha Cross to return before I could talk to him. If by some miracle he was okay with the idea of Jordan and I dating, then I would offer to go pick her back up from Bash. At least she was with them. I didn't like the idea of her being away from me, but I knew Bash and River would keep her out of trouble. I guess we wait for him to get back. My dad said.